The hottest startup in AI just hit $2 billion in revenue. Cursor. It's eating GitHub Copilot alive in the headlines, and every single line of Cursor's code editor, built on top of Microsoft's open source project. Let that sink in. Everyone's debating whether Cursor kills Copilot, but they're missing the bigger picture. Microsoft doesn't just own the AI coding assistant, they own the editor, the repository, the package ecosystem, the deployment pipeline, the programming language. It's like arguing about which gas station wins while one company owns every road in the country. And that is one of the most underrated moats in all of tech. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Microsoft Simplified. Today, I'm going to show you something that I genuinely think most investors are completely sleeping on. By the end of this, you'll see the invisible pipeline that connects the majority of developers on Earth directly to Microsoft's bottom line. And you'll understand why it's almost impossible to break. I'm going to walk you through this piece by piece. Okay, so let me start with something that sounds insane, but is completely true. Microsoft gives away the most dominant developer tool on the planet for free. VS Code, it's a code editor. Think of it like Microsoft Word, but for programmers. And right now, 76% of all developers use it. That's not a typo. 76%, according to the 2025 Stack Overflow survey. The next closest competitor? Visual Studio, also Microsoft, by the way, at 29%. Nobody else is even close. And here's where it gets wild. VS Code is open source. Microsoft published the code for anyone to use, modify, copy, whatever. And you're thinking, okay, that sounds like a terrible business decision, right? Just giving it away. But picture this. You run a grocery store, and you set up a free sample table so good, so irresistible, that 76% of every shopper on Earth eats exclusively from your table. They build their entire diet around your samples. That's VS Code. Because here's the part that should make an investor's ears perk up. The editor is free and open source. But the extension marketplace, the ecosystem of over 60,000 plugins with billions of total installs, that's Microsoft's. The telemetry, Microsoft's. The integrations, Microsoft's. So when Cursor, valued at $29.3 billion, needed to build their revolutionary AI code editor, what did they do? They forked VS Code. They literally copied Microsoft's open source project and built on top of it. Same thing with Windsurf. Same thing with half the new AI coding tools out there. Think about this as an investor. When your biggest competitor has to build their product on your foundation, you've already won the platform war. The competitor becomes your distribution. It's like if Nike gave away shoes for free and then Adidas said, great, we'll just put our logo on these. Except the soles still say Nike. But owning the editor, that's just the appetizer. Wait until you see what Microsoft plugged into it. Okay, so this is where it gets absolutely wild. I had to draw this on a whiteboard to believe it. Every single step a developer takes, from writing their first line of code to shipping a finished product, Microsoft owns it, all of it. Let me walk you through the pipeline. Step 1, write the code, VS Code, 76% market share. Step 2, store the code, GitHub, over 150 million developers, 630 million repositories. Microsoft bought it in 2018 for $7.5 billion. Wall Street thought they were crazy. Step 3, the programming language. TypeScript. Microsoft invented it, and according to GitHub's own Octoverse report, TypeScript became the #1 most used language on GitHub in August 2025. Passing Python, passing JavaScript, the most popular programming language on the world's biggest code platform, made by Microsoft. Step 4, the packages. NPM. If you're building anything with JavaScript or TypeScript, you're pulling packages from NPM. It's the largest software registry on the planet. Over 1 million packages. And who owns NPM? GitHub. Who owns GitHub? Microsoft. Step 5, AI assistance. GitHub Copilot. Over 20 million users. 90% of Fortune 100 companies use it. And Copilot drove over 40% of GitHub's revenue growth, pushing GitHub to a $2 billion annual run rate. Step 6. Ship the code. GitHub Actions for CI or CD, which holds 33% of that market. And where does that pipeline naturally deploy to? Azure, Microsoft's cloud. Check this out. If you add GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps together, Microsoft controls 57% of the entire CI/CD market, more than half of all automated code deployment on Earth goes through Microsoft. Now here's the mental model I want you to hold on to. Each layer makes the next layer stickier. You can't easily leave VS Code without losing your extensions. You can't leave GitHub without rebuilding your entire workflow. You can't rip out NPM without breaking your project. You can't abandon Copilot once it's learned your codebase. And you're definitely not rewiring your deployment pipeline for fun on a Tuesday. That's not a product portfolio. That's a tar pit, a beautiful, productive tar pit. And that $29 billion threat called Cursor? Their users still store code on GitHub, still use NPM, still deploy to Azure. Cursor isn't breaking the pipeline, it's running inside it. That honestly blew my mind. So, the obvious question, can anyone actually break this? Fair question. Let's stress test it. Cursor just hit $2 billion in annualized revenue. That's real. Their market share in AI coding is surging, and Copilot's share of paid tools has dropped to around 42%, with some surveys showing it even lower. Google has Gemini Code Assist. Amazon has Q Developer. The AI assistant layer is genuinely competitive right now. But here's the framework. The AI coding tool is the layer. The pipeline is the infrastructure. Layers get disrupted all the time. Infrastructure almost never does. Google could win the AI assistant war tomorrow, and Microsoft still controls where code gets written, stored, packaged, and shipped. That's the difference between a feature and a foundation. And look, Nadella himself said 20 to 30% of Microsoft's own code is now AI generated. They're not just selling developer tools. They're the biggest customer. That's a level of dog fooding you can't fake. It's like worrying that a new GPS app will kill Google Maps while ignoring that Google owns the satellite, phone operating system, and the search engine that recommends the restaurant you're driving to. The navigation layer is one piece. The ecosystem is everything. So, let me land this. Microsoft's developer stack is not a product line. It's an attention monopoly that builds switching costs at every single layer. VS Code hooks you. GitHub holds your code. NPM holds your dependencies. TypeScript shapes how you think. Copilot learns your patterns. Azure ships your product. Each layer reinforces the next. And almost none of this shows up in the Azure versus AWS debate. Here's your investor takeaway. Next time you evaluate Microsoft, don't just compare Azure revenue to AWS revenue. Ask a different question. How much of the world's software is written, stored, and shipped through Microsoft's pipeline? Because that's not a product metric. That's a gravity metric. And gravity is really, really hard to escape. They paid $7.5 billion for GitHub. It now does $2 billion a year in revenue. And it's not even the most valuable part. The pipeline is. If this just rewired how you think about Microsoft's Moat, smash that subscribe button, because I go deep on stuff like this every single week. Next time, we're looking at something that feeds directly into this pipeline, Azure, and why the cloud wars aren't actually about cloud anymore. I'll see you there.